Hello, it is 12 noon in Paris. It is 2 p.m. in Baghdad. I'm Monita Rajpal. You're watching World One live from London. An observer group from the Arab League arrives in Syria today. Its mission is to check whether the government is keeping its promise to end the long-running violence against civilians. It's scenes like this, though, that have the international community alarmed. Elsewhere, this amateur footage appears to show government tanks rolling through the town of Idlib yesterday. One opposition group claims 250 people were killed in Syria on Monday and Tuesday. And more on this with CNN's Leonie Lakhani. Now, CNN isn't allowed to report from within Syria, so she joins us now live from our bureau in nearby Abu Dhabi. Leonie, we've seen this. These observers are allowed into Syria right now. What exactly is their mission, and how long will they be there for?
Monita, what we're expecting today is an advance team, which will be consisting of a handful of officials arriving in Damascus this hour.
Leonie, thank you. Leonie Lakhani there at CNN Abu Dhabi. Well, the U.S. is using some very strong language against the Syrian regime, accusing President Bashar al-Assad of mowing down his own citizens. But protesters in Syria want more than tough talk. They want UN action. But as Richard Roth reports, Russia, which holds veto power at the UN Security Council, is proving a tough obstacle.
Free, free Syria!
They were denouncing the Syria government in New York.
Several explosions have ripped through Baghdad at the height of morning rush hour. Police officials say at least 63 people have been killed. Many more have been injured. This was the scene just after dawn. In the streets below, the familiar wail of sirens as ambulances rush to scenes of carnage. 4 car bombs and 10 roadside bombs exploded in just 2 hours. It's just Arwa Damon is live for us now in Baghdad. She joins us. And Arwa, this comes just days after President Obama of the United States is hailing a new chapter there in Iraq.
And unfortunately, these scenes that we're seeing unfolding in the capital are nothing new to Iraqis, given everything that they have gone through. But this is very much a nightmare scenario for the population here. Some of those...
Right, Arwa, thank you very much. Arwa Damon there in Baghdad. You are watching World One live from London. As England's football captain fights to clear his name, we ask whether top footballer says he will fight tooth and nail against charges of hurling racist abuse. England and Chelsea captain John Terry is to be charged over an incident during a match in October. So is there an ugly side to the beautiful game? CNN's Dan Rivers asks whether race relations in sport are getting better or worse.
It's been a bleak week in the world's most watched football league. The corrosive allegations of racism rather than the game itself have dominated the headlines. Dan Rivers, CNN, London.
We want to see what newspapers here in Britain are saying about this. This is the headline in The Guardian. Keep on kicking it out. The comment piece goes on to say English football has worked hard to combat racism, but all that good work can be undone by one short-sighted act. Kicking out racism is more important than any player or any club can ever be. The headline in the Daily Telegraph is on-field culture changed forever in just 18 hours. The opinion piece says footballers are raised in a system of psychological warfare and omerta in which there are few whistleblowers. They can no longer jump in the shower, secure in the knowledge that a pitch is a private club where anything goes. And finally, The Independent has a commentary on the role of the fans in all of this. This is the headline, one-eyed tribalism of supporters who fail to see the harm. It says there must be alarm that many around English football would struggle to identify a moral issue as opposed to a partisan one, even if it came in the form of a disabling two-footed tackle. You can lucky few lottery winners in Spain. It'll be a Christmas like no other. The first of the winning numbers have been drawn in the annual El Gordo lottery, the richest in the world. The name now from Madrid with more details. Any idea? Any winners come forward yet, Al?
Hi, Monita. Well, let me show you what a lottery ticket looks like. This is a $25 lottery ticket. It happens to be mine.
You know, one of the things I love about lotteries is that people start to imagine about what they would do if they won the big one. You know, there's this thing to just imagine, what would you do? What have people been saying to you about what they would do if they win? That's a sad state of affairs, but good luck. And, you know, it'll be a very happy Christmas for a few people who do win this lottery. Al, thank you so much. Al Goodman there in Madrid. You are watching World One live from London. The French Parliament is debating a bill that would make it a crime to publicly deny Turkish forces committed genocide against Armenians almost 100 years ago. The bill, which is expected to be approved, would make the offense punishable by a year in jail or a fine of nearly $60,000. Turkey is accusing President Nicolas Sarkozy of trying to win votes among France's Armenian population. As it's standing up for human rights, Egypt's foreign minister says stop interfering. The U.S. State Department is defending Secretary of State Hillary Clinton after her criticism of Egyptian security forces' rough handling of female protesters. She was responding to disturbing images of women dragged, kicked and beaten by Egypt's riot police. The family of one of those women gave CNN's Mohammed Jamjoon exclusive access to her in hospital, an interview with her. But we do warn you, some viewers may find some of these scenes in this report upsetting. It's time for a look at sports now. Of course, the only story that we're really looking at right now is this whole issue of racism in the beautiful game. And of course, the latest issue is with John Terry.
Absolutely, Monita. Thanks very much. John Terry will be expected to play for Chelsea against Spurs in the Premier League later today. But the England captain has bigger things to think about, having been charged with a racially aggravated public order offence. We have for now. Of course, we'll have much more on all their stories in world sport later on.
We look forward to that. But I want to ask you about how, you know, it's interesting how some clubs, and I have to be very careful here. I mean, what they're saying, some clubs are saying they will stand by their members no matter what happens. Now, if one of us was to break the law, if we were arrested, broke the law, you know, it would be very difficult to see that, you know, be told that no matter what you do, you'll be fine.
Well, it's very difficult.
You have to abide by standards and practices and ethics.
Both Chelsea and Liverpool have come out and stood by their players. Luis Suarez has been found guilty by an independent commission appointed by the Football Association. And, I mean, their defence of their player is really quite spectacular, isn't it? I mean, the whole team coming out with his name on there and his image on their shirts, and even the manager, Kenny Dalglish, he was giving post-match interviews yesterday in T-shirts with Suarez's image on. And at the same time, they say they stand up and fight racism. It's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? Of course, in the John Terry case, he is innocent until proven guilty, sure, and the legal process must run its course. But again, for his manager, Andre Villas-Boas, to come out and say, whatever the outcome, we stand by him, is quite extraordinary.
I mean, it's just, you know, we were talking about this in our editorial meeting this morning. It's actually quite sad in this day and age that we're still talking about racism, especially in sport, where what part of life you are in, industry you're in, it shouldn't be there, but especially in sport, because that's the one thing that's supposed to unify people.
Well, and it's actually quite unfortunate for English football, because English football has made huge strides in the fight against racism in general, and the English game looks nothing like the game that I grew up with in the 70s and 80s, where it was a breeding ground for the National Front, where, you know, racists were basically recruited and where, you know, horrendous things were said on the terraces. And that doesn't happen anymore. And in other countries, that still does happen. But it's because the football authorities in this country have made such progress that when a couple of instances like this happen, it becomes huge news.
At the end, racism, zero tolerance. That should just be a blanket thing. All right, Don, thank you very much. You are watching World One live from London. Coming up, comes just a day after President Benigno Aquino declared a state of national calamity after visiting areas worst hit by the storm. So we want to see the weather that's forecast for the region. Let's go to meteorologist Guillermo Arduino at the World Weather Center with an update on that.
Monita, the good thing is that we're not expecting any significant weather in the Philippines anywhere. Monita, back to you.
Guillermo, thank you very much. Now, for most of us, a trip to Lapland is the closest we'll ever get to spending Christmas at the North Pole. But beyond the sleigh rides, the snow tours, and the trips to Santa's grotto, how much do we really know about the region? Neil Curry takes us off the beaten track to find out more about the place known to locals as Sapmi.
Reindeer herding is at the root of Sami culture and tradition. Today, helicopters and snowmobiles make the job a little easier.
And before we go, former politicians, if you know, are celebrities on the speaking circuit, pulling in anywhere from a few $1,000s to be a panelist to tens of thousands of dollars to deliver a keynote address. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich said this week he made at least $35,000 for each speech. That's each speech he gave after leaving. Good Christmases for them, I guess. You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. We'll update you on our top stories in just a moment right here on CNN.